Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for a new episode of this education series we are doing. Senior Resource Connectors was um, envisioned and organized and developed over the last couple of years because we are and so many of us that operate businesses that serve these families that are engaged in the journey of aging with our loved ones. We know that the majority of the clients we served over the years are the adult kids. And so Senior Resource Connectors is here for you and for you as adult children who are loving someone who is aging and in many cases having issues and challenges associated with that aging. And so we are bringing you some of the very best, most talented, experienced, skilled, compassionate people that I know in these industries, and today's no exception. Today, Kimberly Akers is joining me. She's with Amada Senior Care. She and her company and her team do a lot to walk with families. And so I'm going to have her just introduce herself, say hi, tell us a little bit about what you do. But Kimberly, thanks for joining me today. This is great to talk to you.
Oh, Scott, thank you so much. And thank you for Senior Resource Connectors and just making kind of all the resources connecting
Yeah.
and available to adult children and seniors. So thank you for asking about Amada Senior Care. We are Arizona's trusted resource for in-home care and long-term care insurance advocacy. So I'll just break that down. We have caregivers that come in the home. So if you're not ready to move to an assisted living, but need some assistance and support for a couple of hours a day or a couple of hours a week, that's where assisted living comes to you.
Yeah.
Basically, the caregivers come to you. Then on the second side of that, which I'm sure we're going to go into some deeper conversation, Scott, is we are very familiar and experts with private long-term care insurance policies. So we can help navigate and help make sure that those claims are successful and people get the benefits from them.
I've got some specific questions. I do want to ask you about that. But can we talk about the in-home care part of that just real quick before we get to the long-term care insurance? So many families have promised themselves that they don't want to go to one of them places.
Yeah.
Right. I get it. Now my primary business is helping people on the other side get to the right senior living. And unfortunately, for many families, they would love to keep them at home for a while, but cost or time just doesn't it's prohibitive. So they do have to make that jump. But if you have that opportunity to keep someone home or home for a while longer, in-home care becomes such a critical, tool in your toolbox, right? To use
Right.
for keeping a loved one safe, engaged, hopefully not feeling isolated and depressed. And you probably see a lot of that.
We do. I like to consider in-home care as a complement. I think we work really well when that there's family involved, that there's still other people involved, and we're just part of the tribe. Let's just
Yeah.
say we're a complement to maybe the adult daughter or the adult son, or maybe other family, maybe the spouse. The well spouse needs a respite, a break, things of that nature. And so we're a great complement to helping people actually stay independent in their home,
Yeah.
right? It's just reality, Scott. You and I are feeling it as we're aging. It's just the reality is, we have only so much energy, as we age, if that makes sense. And so sometimes certain household tasks or personal tasks kind of get by the wayside
Yeah.
because we only have so much energy. And so having care in the home allows you to have the energy and spend the time and effort to do the things that you want to do.
If I'm an adult kid and I'm thinking about this, or I'm watching my mom and dad particularly, and maybe even one of them has been diagnosed with some mild cognitive impairment or early dementia, what is the stress level like for the one not affected? And if I'm an adult child, what do I need to know about that combination to protect the well spouse, so to speak?
Yeah. Wow. Another great question. Well, if I can, I'll just share a couple of statistics.
Sure.
Uh, First of all, there is a statistic of about 40% of well spouses will actually pass away before the one that they're caring for.
Right.
And I think we can say, well, wow, that makes sense, right? The emotional stress, the physical stress, like already maybe that well spouse is aging and already has, some issues as well. And so now trying to maintain two people, that's pretty stressful,
Right.
emotionally and physically. Also, recently I read an article that states that spouses of those with dementia
Yeah.
actually will increase their chances to also have cognitive impairment.
Seriously.
Seriously, because what happens is, that couple starts to isolate
Yeah.
themselves, right?
Yeah.
Hard to go out
Oh, yeah.
and communication and get some of those, like mental strategies or brain, right? And so it's a study showing that the well spouse will actually have an increase of cognitive impairment.
Wow. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
if I'm hearing this, then I'm thinking, all right, I I need to get the pressure off mom. If mom's the well one, so to speak, taking care of dad who might having experiencing some cognitive decline.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is I got to serve on a committee at the Attorney General's office for a number of years. It was called the Arizona Health and Safety Committee, and we analyzed and looked at and strategized between the private sector and the government what issues were affecting and most impactful to aging Arizonans. And here they are: 1A, falls, dementia, Alzheimer's particularly. And and so here we have a reality of 100,000 80-year-olds in Maricopa County, 75, there's 250,000 over the age of 75. There's almost a million of us at 65. I mean, Maricopa County is getting old.
Right.
These things are statistically real. What are we going to be dealing with in 5 or 10 years?
Uh, we are going to have, well, I can tell you in my generation, we're going to have a bunch of stressed out adult children.
I already know a couple that live at my house, but that's
But, going back to maybe those like spousal scenarios that we were just talking about, if I could give an example, we have a particular couple, and the husband does have some cognitive impairment. And so we come in at about 16 hours a week. So he has a caregiver that comes in, and then the wife, she makes sure she plans on going out. She has lunches with her girlfriends. She does a Bible study one day. She gets her grocery shopping, her hair done. Like, she makes sure she's doing something. Now that fills her need because she's a social person.
Mhm.
Being at home, it is challenging for her, if
Right.
that makes,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
her
Absolutely.
that's her nature. Then we have another spousal, same situation, but what the wife does is she goes into her craft room
Mhm.
and she has uninterrupted time with her crafts. She
Mm.
a lot of the Cricut kind of machine, craft, making hand cards and things like that.
Mhm.
But I guess what I'm saying is that's what fills up her bucket,
Yeah.
right? You have these two different scenarios, and you have these two different spouses that are getting their buckets filled. They are emotionally resetting, they're physically resetting, they're able to take a mental time off in order to kind of reset their whole body and emotions and mental. Hopefully
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. And then is that pressure, they get their bucket filled. now they've got more of themselves
Right.
to invest in the caregiving component and maintaining the marriage and the integrity of the marriage and all that, right?
Totally. And
Yeah.
it's also a peace of mind to adult daughters like me, right? That
Yeah.
are guilty, like, okay, I've got kids still at home. I'm, trying to get them out of the house, wanting to spend more time with my husband, right? But yet now I feel guilty not giving mom a break,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just this constant kind of tension to manage.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more thing, and we're going to jump to the long-term care insurance. When people are considering bringing someone in, that can be a frightening or a daunting or overwhelming kind of concept. And so I've always advocated, of course, that you're using a company like Amada or others, and we have many of those partners, as part of the coalition here, but they're all dedicated to employing their people, best practice, background checks, because hey, it's a nice idea to have the lady from church come over, but now you've put yourself in position as her employer. You're subject to workers' comp issues. You have no recourse for background checks and all that kind of stuff. So, can you just touch that real quick?
Great. Yes, I would definitely advocate to find an agency that uses best practices.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, Arizona, we're a little bit behind the times for in-home care, which means, Scott, that we're a non-regulated in-home care state, meaning I don't have any laws or the government, telling me that I have to do background checks,
Right.
or that have to have liability in our company, or I have to provide workman's comp, or that my caregivers have to be employees and not
That's right.
contract.
That's
And
right.
that's really it's challenging as a consumer to know those little nuances.
Right.
And so sometimes when it comes down to rate, people are, for prices, people are like, oh, well, this is cheaper, but is cheaper also protecting you and your loved ones?
Right. Amen to that. You know what I've tried to do for the placement industry. I've aligned myself with companies like
Yeah.
yours with the home care side. I'm going to talk to others from other non-regulated industries, from the care coordinators or care managers to moving companies. Those companies that align with connectors the way we do have to be part of their trade groups and adhere to those best practices. All right, I'll jump out of that, but that's my soapbox. I honk that
Yeah,
horn for us that
agree.
that make that, because I believe in consumer protection. I don't want an unknowing
Of
family to
course.
get into something and go, oh my God, if I'd only known they didn't have insurance, I didn't know that they weren't employed. They were just 1099s for that umbrella company or whatever.
Yeah. And if we want to ever talk some other time of why I got in this business, it was because my family chose to hire their own caregivers for my
Mhm.
grand. We learned a lot.
Right,
And
right.
we paid a lot for mistakes that we had made.
Most of us that have a role in this space have a story that
Yeah.
got us triggered into this. Let me jump to the long-term care insurance.
Yeah.
I get a call from a boyhood friend. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and a boyhood friend calls me last week and he says, my parents are in their 90s. Of course, they know his parents. I grew up with them too. And he's a couple years older than me. And he's like, what do I have to do to get their long-term? They've been paying for this forever. Dad needs help. They don't think they do, but they do. How do I get a claim opened? And he mentions their insurance company. I won't name it here, but I thought Kimberly would know. You got to talk to Kimberly, but you live in Ohio. So tell me about this specialty area that you have become an expert into, because this is huge. People
Yeah.
have paid for those policies, and dadgummit, there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through to get your benefits.
There is. And if I could go backwards to go forwards to maybe
Sure.
answer the
Yeah.
question. So about 15% of seniors will have a long-term care insurance policy. Okay, so 15% have been paying premiums, private pay premiums on these for about 15, 20 years. Most seniors took it out in their 60s, right?
Mhm.
And now they're in their 80s. Also, what happened in the insurance industry is they oversold insurance policies. Okay. They didn't anticipate, when I say they, the insurance companies didn't anticipate us living as long and on the rise of cognitive impairment and living with cognitive impairment for a long time. And then they projected that a lot of people would drop their policies. Well, people are keeping their policies, their long-term care policies. So now what you have, Scott, is you have an aggressive claims department. Let's just be honest. But also on the flip side, you also have well-intentioned family members and seniors that don't understand their policy
Mm-hmm.
and aren't sure how to navigate that, thus getting upset with the long-term care insurance company. And sometimes it's because they're not aware of the buzzwords, the vernacular, the definitions within the policy. So that's why before you even call the long-term care insurance company, it's good to give myself a call and I'll walk through your policy, no charge. I'll give you an analysis. I'll educate you so you are well armed, well educated in navigating with the long-term care company.
You mentioned buzzwords, and I had a couple in my head. Activities of daily living, elimination period.
Yep.
People got those. They have a 90-day elimination period. Their sales guy told them, oh, well, you got 90 days of Medicare coverage to pick that up. So they bought their policy with the elimination period, thinking Medicare was going to go 90 days for some sort of rehab. And you and I know there is often a gap and then a financial burden before the policy can even start to pay. So share that whole thing, I guess.
Yes. So just again, I think that comes in with education, right? And since we're such experts here, it's really easy for us to look through a policy and then give you the easy version to understand. A lot of times we're reading these policies and they're insurancees, right? And it's like, I don't understand that.
Right.
And I just would love adult daughters and sons and seniors to get some more time back in their day. Like, let me come and help you with a free consultation. So you're not trying to figure this out late at night, 10 o'clock, trying to read this insurancee's policy and not anything. So one example, Scott, is that I had an adult daughter come to me after she had made a claim. And she's again upset about the long-term care insurance company. And she said, well, I told them that mom needed help with grocery shopping and she needed help with housekeeping and she needed help with transportation. And they denied her claim. And so she's upset. It's again, understanding what's going to trigger or qualify the claim before making that claim.
Do you know, and I bet you do from your experience, if I say what John Hancock's policies typically want or a Genworth policy wants or whatever, if I tell you who's my carrier, you can predict how to prepare that family to have the conversation and strategically be ready to enter into a claim or open a claim, right?
Yes, absolutely. Most long-term care insurance companies or policies, Scott, are similar to cars, right? I don't know what car you drive, but I probably guess that it has 4 tires and a steering wheel. But I don't know if you have a sunroof, which was like an added package. I don't know if you have heated seats or leather seats, which is a package. So that's the same with long-term care insurance policies. There's some generalities to all of them. But then there's packages or what's called riders on the policy to which I can come in and delve and kind of get to the bottom of those certain differentiators.
Did they have a rider that was increasing their benefit? They may not even know they had it, and all of a sudden they think, well, I got $100 a day, and they find out they got $249. Yeah.
Yes.
So
yeah. So it's inflation rider, it's waiver of premium, it's also, what does it cover? I'm sure that in your kind of realm, you always have to look at the definitions. Like for assisted living, I've seen some of them say, you know, must be in an assisted living that has 5 residents or more.
Yes.
Right. So it's learning those little nuances that
Yes.
could deny the claim and being prepared.
I okay, so I've been in this placement side of it over 20 years. Probably in year 1 or year 2, I didn't look at somebody's nuance very well. It required a 10-bed facility. I found the nicest, best 5-bed, and without looking as deeply into the policies, I created a second move for that family so that they could get their claims successfully. And that was on me for not knowing it. Usually we learn stuff by stepping in the bucket once in a while, and I stepped in it that day. But you make a really good point. Um, Here's another thing too, and because we often are really helping the adult kids through this with their parents, um, I often say to the families, "Hey, you just went through heck with your mom and dad getting it paid for, applying for the Arizona long-term care plan or whatever to get them moved into senior living. Where are you at with your planning so that in the event your kids need to step in for you?" So it's often brought a bridge in. I bet it has for you too, to talk to them about, hey, you're 57 years old yourself. Have you have you gotten a quote on a long-term plan? Have you seen the new hybrid policies? Those are things that it's opened me up to just having those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I love having those conversations because when I do sit down with a family, like a senior who's about 80, right?
Mhm.
And looking over their policy, I love having the children there. And I look at them and I say, do you realize your mom and dad have given you a gift?
Mm.
This is a gift of love that they have given you. And wouldn't that be great that you have a gift of love for your children?
Beautiful. Yeah.
Like it is a gift. The reality is there is going to be a burden that we as adult children are going to carry for our parents. And burden might not be the best word. So help me think of another word, but
Yeah.
how much of a burden do you want to be to your children? Do you want to be financial, emotional? Like, what percentage
Yeah.
do you want your children to carry
Yeah. And
for you?
and most of our parents don't want us to be responsible for them. And I certainly don't want my kids to be responsible for me. So that what planning, we at Connectors, you guys, we are dedicated to this pre-need narrative concept that we want to help you be prepared before the crisis. Do not wait. Do not be, don't put your head in the sand, so to speak. And so this conversation, Kimberly, is just, we could go for another half an hour easy.
We,
And we should talk again here soon, and we'll tackle another topic. But
but I policy just because of being in the industry, I just was floored. And again, I want to make sure that my children have choices for
yeah,
me.
yeah,
And yes, that there's going to be some other assistance available to them besides just them. I want to
there'll be
keep that mom and child relationship.
yeah, there'll be enough. You'll have a me in your world, and I'll have a you in my world. And the kids have to deal with me.
Right?
Oh my gosh! Listen, again, to our audience, thank you for taking a few minutes to hang out with Kimberly and I. Kimberly, I can't thank you enough. This has been just delightful. I mean it. We'll have another conversation on another topic. At Senior Resource Connectors, again, we are here for you, particularly those adult children. If you're still working, you're maintaining your employment, and you're managing the affairs of your parents, and you might still have kids in high school or college. That's a big plate. And so let us help you take some of that off and get some clarity, get some objectivity and get you in touch with the right people that can help you. You can call our offices. We are free and at no charge to you to help you understand and put together a game plan, or what we like to call an aging plan. So thank you for joining us. Our contact information is to follow. We will get you in touch with Kimberly if you need any help at all. Kimberly, do you have a website that you direct people to if they have any direct questions about anything you've talked about today?
Yes, our website is amadamesa.com, AMADAMESA.com. We serve Phoenix and the Holy Valley, and our number is 480-999-5250. And just mention Senior Resource Connectors when you call, so we know where we can say thank you and just give some shout outs to Senior Connectors.
Thank you. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks again for joining us. Have a blessed afternoon. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.